Yep.
Our streets. Our streets. Divided we fall. Divided we fall. Divided we fall. Divided we fall.
You good?
Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics, back here in St. Louis. It is already kind of chill. It's a chilly night, but we have another protest march going on here. I think we're on the north side. Are we on the north side of St. Louis? Yep, north side of St. Louis. You have protesters here. We're going on a month. Friday will be a month since the verdict that acquitted Officer Jason Stockley of murder. So these protests are going on a month old. They're not slowing down. Ty and I were in East Chicago and Flint over the weekend, but there were protests throughout the weekend. You saw protests in the Ferguson area and in Shaw. And now these protesters are marching on this street here. And you see there's vehicles behind us, so they are, again, blocking the traffic. And we will try to get in front now. So the leader right now is saying, when you're out here, don't think about how cold you are. Think about the change that you want to see.
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! Said 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 no racist! Police! Said no racist! Police! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't shut it down!
The protesters are pretty much planning on indefinitely demonstrating. And what's been really kind of very troubling about this is we know the police department is totally out of control. But the mayor Lyda Krewson, I reached out to the mayor's office after Ty and I were arrested. We still haven't gotten any charges. We were arrested. Tomorrow will be the week since we were arrested. And I said to the mayor's office, I asked her some simple questions. Why are you allowing your police department to arrest journalists covering things like this? Why are you allowing your police department to dispense chemical weapons on unarmed protesters? Her office gave me pretty much canned statements that she has called on the U.S. U.S. attorneys to open investigation into the police's activity. Well, I said to her, that's great. That's great that you're calling on an investigation, but you have the power right now, as of a week ago. You have the power to tell the police department what to do or what not to do. You could tell the police department, no, you're not going to arrest journalists. You could tell the police department, unless someone is armed and a threat, you are not to release weapons. So this mayor has pretty much chosen to do nothing. As police crack skulls, release tear gas, pepper spray, mace. I have seen police barrel into legal observers and protesters with their shield. So what these people are out here protesting is exactly what the police continue to do to them in real time.
The whole damn system is guilty as hell.
They think it's a game.
They think it's a joke.
They think it's a game.
They think it's a joke.
They think it's a game.
They think it's a joke.
They think it's a game.
They think it's a joke.
It ain't no game.
It ain't no 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 joke.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what community looks like.
This is what community looks like.
Show me what community
There's also
looks like.
This is what
something else going on. There's a resolution that is being pushed that will force the interim police chief to basically go before the Board of Aldermen here and basically answer for the tactics of the St. Louis Police Department. Today, that resolution moved forward. It wasn't voted on, but it's moving forward to where the interim police chief will have to answer for the police department's illegal behavior. Another thing, obviously this is about Black Lives Matter and African Americans and killing black people. Ty and I did an interview earlier today with two transgender women and one transgender male. And let me tell you something. As in other jails and other cities, the way that they are treating transgender citizens is like how they treat caged rats. I encourage you, not right now, but to watch that interview we did, putting transgender men and women in solitary confinement, hurling slurs and harassment towards them, making one take a pregnancy test. For what purpose, I don't know. There's so many other vile things I learned in this interview today. It's on Facebook and this YouTube channel, so definitely check that out.
I said if we don't get it,
shut it down.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
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 No justice.
No peace.
Said 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 no racist.
And
Said no racist.
Police.
Said no racist.
Ty,
Police.
Said no racist.
you got they got a Blue Lives Murder sign over there, so definitely a little different than Blue Lives Matter. Obviously talking about police. They're stopping for a minute here. And I should point out, a lot of these people here are people that Ty and I were in jail cells with. So if police's motivation in arresting protesters is to make them stop, it's almost like you are causing them to double down and triple down. I just had a conversation with one person in my jail cell last week who, if anything, it's only emboldened him to do more. So I think whatever the St. Louis Police Department thinks they're doing, I don't know if a lot of thought is being put into it. It's not working. Again, if you're coming to this late, this Friday is the 1 month mark since these protests began. The 1 month mark since Officer Jason Stockley was found not guilty for his 2011 killing of Anthony Lamar Smith, who was a 24-year-old African-American that Jason Stockley chased with his car, 3-mile chase. During that chase, he said on his audio, I'm going to kill this motherfucker, you watch. I'm going to kill this motherfucker, you watch. Then he went in his car after killing him, for what I think was planting a gun, because the only gun that was found had this officer's DNA, yet somehow he was found not guilty. So,
St. Louis PD, KKK, how many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK, how many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK, how many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK, how many kids did you kill today? All right, we're going to try this one more time because they're like, what the hell is this thing? All right, so here goes. St. Louis PD, KKK.
so they're now talking about the St. Louis PD, KKK. How many kids did you kill today?
How many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK. How many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK. How many kids did you kill today? I said St. Louis PD, KKK. How many kids did you kill today? St. Louis PD, KKK.
And you basically, I should add, obviously with TYT politics, we call out the Democrats quite a bit. I don't want to say they're worse than Republicans, but I don't really think there's that much of a difference in terms of Democratic Party versus a Republican Party, because the Democratic Party has given Black Lives Matter a lot of lip service too. But you got hurricanes going on, obviously. You have the largest mass shooting in American history. You got Trump as president, so every day is a new chaos. But I don't, unless I've missed something, I haven't heard anything from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the DNC, Elizabeth Warren for that matter. If I missed it, Bernie Sanders. I haven't heard much about what's going on here in St. Louis. Because make no mistake about it, what's going on here is terrorism. The way the police are shooting first and answering questions later. The way police have fun with the way they treat black people, transgender people, poor white people in this jail. Accounts that I've heard have police sending transgender men and women half naked out of their cell in front of a drunk tank, so that drunk people in the drunk tank can look at them and say offensive things. They've made racial slurs. They've made homophobic slurs. And the police essentially view the protesters here as deviants, and I'm sure in their locker room talk, worse. So essentially, you have this going on for a month. It might look like the same thing every time we cover it. Similar chants, similar actions, but it can't go on in perpetuity without something happening. So the Democratic Party is going to have to answer to this. The president is going to have to answer to this, because as my reporting is going to show, I'm doing stuff behind the scenes. The corruption and the brutality in St. Louis, and I'm sure people watching in Baltimore know this, and I'm sure people watching in Ferguson know this, and Milwaukee and Cleveland and other places with violent police departments, but the corruption and the brutalization is horrifying once you look into it, as well as the kickbacks, the financial kickbacks that you get from politicians to the police unions to the developers, which I'll also be telling you more about as I report. So they continue to walk down this main block. That's Cori Bush right up there. Cori Bush with the black curly hair. She's running for Congress in the 1st District here. I interviewed her my first night here. I don't know. Time is getting a little confusing. You see, what they do is they go, if they see people outside on their front porches, the protesters try to corral them into joining the protest. It's all about numbers, obviously. And you see Cori back here. Cori, real quick, Tell me, have you guys still feel a lot of momentum since we last talked? Obviously, there's been arrests, there's been more brutalization. The mayor hasn't done anything, and the police department's acting like you all are, a bunch of deviants, and they're making the whole thing up.
Yeah, we still have the momentum. Just Sunday, we had 1,000 people out with us, and tomorrow we'll have even more. So yeah, we have the momentum. We're not getting what we want. We're not getting what we need, so we're going to stay out here.
I see in the comments all the time, oh, you're making it up. The police wouldn't do these things. You guys need to get jobs, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, they live in nice neighborhoods when they don't get targeted. But do you see yourself your movement starting to penetrate through to people who previously might have, thought you guys were just out of control vandals?
Yeah, for sure. I think with the kettling and people seeing that just people that aren't even a part of the protest are being brutalized, just like you and Ty, being swept up in that kettle, being spoken to like you're degenerates, and people being pushed with the shields and hit with the batons. Absolutely outrageous. So people are starting to see all across the country that we're not making this up. Just the fact that we have such a diverse group of people, ages and genders and races, it's showing that it's not just us, it's the jacked up police that's supposed to serve us.
And you're running to be a Democratic congressperson.
Yes.
Are you hearing anything from the Democratic leadership to support you, to investigate the police? Because I haven't heard a damn thing from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, or any of these bastions of progressivism, shall we say.
Oh, no. Nationally, no, we haven't heard anything. Not a word. It's very silent. But the good thing is I don't look to them for leadership anyway.
Spoken like a leader. Thanks. So, and you're running in the 1st District.
First District, Missouri.
So that's Cori Bush. She's a Justice Democrat candidate, which obviously Cenk co-founded the Justice Democrats. So they're looks like they're making a right here. So as you see, they're in the middle of the road now. So they're trying to. This is all about disruption. As they've told me from the beginning, they are definitely trying to be nonviolent, but they're not trying to be peaceful. They're trying to be nonviolent, but they're not trying to be peaceful because they want to disrupt. Because to them, if your brother is getting shot and killed, if your sister is getting shot and killed, if your boyfriend, your girlfriend, if you have to deal with harassment and racism just as a daily part of life, that's more than a disruption. So they are basically saying, sorry if it takes you a little longer to get to work. They're basically saying, sorry if, you're inconvenienced, but these are our lives. We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for justice. So that's pretty much the sentiment I've gotten from the protesters. Press the share button. I know Bernie Sanders is talking, so tough act to follow up, tough act to compete with, but we'll try. Let's get this out to as many people as possible. And like we've seen at the other protests, you got plenty of white allies here with black protesters too.
They think it's a joke. Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith.
We want justice for
Anthony Smith.
We want justice for
Okay, when I say
And you hear the cars lined up here honking. So they're definitely pissed. They don't like what these protesters are doing. They don't like the disruption. To them, it's like, well, I have nothing to do with it. I didn't shoot him. I'm not a police officer, a lot of these people. But you know what? The bottom line is, as in anything in life, silence is complicity. So if you're a black citizen, a white citizen, a wealthy citizen, a poor citizen, if you're not out with these protesters, or you don't at least try to understand their cause, you're probably you're part of the problem. Bottom line. So, have you seen this type of stuff before, Ty, where they're in the middle of the road like this?
Yeah, I've seen this in LA. They've done this a few times because I think it's about exactly what you were saying. It's about being disruptive. It's about being nonviolent but not peaceful. It's disruptive because if you just march on the sidewalk, no one's hearing. You need to be disruptive so someone can see, so someone can pay attention. It's about getting people's ears and hearts open enough to listen to the brutality that's going on in the city.
Everywhere we go, people want to know. People want to know who we are. Who we are. So we tell them. We are protesters. My protesters. Fighting for justice. Trying to continue, right?
Hey Wes, let me ask you: is this something they do quite a bit, or is this street corner symbolic in any way?
So shutting down as we get to spots, whether intersection or whatever, is just a tactic. Shutting it down because you're shutting down more traffic than just the lane that you were in at that point.
Are you? You've been at the protests throughout. We were in jail together too. Are you seeing residents of St. Louis that wouldn't normally kind of empathize with the protesters?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on the night. A lot of people got to work. Sorry, losing my voice. Yeah, clearly. We're seeing so many people and comments from moms out in the county who never reached to them. There was a big post that went around. People who, are saying this is my first time, this is my second time only, who weren't out during Ferguson, who weren't out during the last few weeks when Kiwi Herring was killed, when Isaiah Hammett was killed, etc. So that's awesome. We need those reinforcements. And there are people that are being radicalized by the police every time we're out here when the police pepper spray or beat people in handcuffs or whatever happens. And those people are now lifelong people in the movement because they've been radicalized by what they've seen by the police that they've never seen out in the counties where they're coming from. Or even, here in our local neighborhoods, here on the north side or over on the south side or wherever. So yeah, it's been awesome seeing that.
And are you seeing, it seems to me that the mayor is kind of like trying to dip one toe in the waters. Oh, I want an investigation into the police, but yet the police work for her, so she could tell the police to stop arresting journalists, to stop.
Cruzan is hand in hand with the white police union. She is not dipping her toe. She is fakely dipping her toe in one water while having her entire foot to knee in the other water, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And she's a Democrat. Let's put that out there.
I mean, to me, that means nothing. That's exactly the problem we have. People running for office veiled as Democrats or whatever, and people seeing Democrats as the progressive ones, whereas in our city, they're the same. She was the law and order candidate out of all the candidates running for office. Yeah.
I got to confirm the number, but she did get upwards of $10,000 from the police union here. The police union here, the white police union. There's two police unions, the white and the black police union. And she also has talked about increasing taxes by $20 million to pay for more police and increase the police salary.
Which has been her tactic since the beginning. We voted, there was a whole stadium vote earlier this year, and part of that, if the stadium didn't pass, was supposed to go to transportation, etc. Those funds were also diverted to the police, and then she's asking this November, coming up for a vote, I think they're going to call it Prop P, similar to what they just voted on the county, is to give a half-cent raise in taxes to give that amount of money to the police, when obviously we've seen now that is not at all what's needed. But that was her plan from the beginning when she was running. Her safety plan for St. Louis was more police, more units out in neighborhoods, because that would solve the problem, according to her. Instead of dealing with the issues within the communities and addressing transportation, addressing more than that, we've seen her literally during these actions taking away needed transportation people have. There are still 12 bus routes in the city that are closed because they're using those buses to be air-conditioned units for the riot police. So yeah.
And also there's the matter of that the police department, a sergeant named Brian Rassamano, literally has a private, almost like a national security private contracting business that is training the St. Louis Police Department. They're actually getting they're also getting their training manual from the Israeli army.
And not only that, but the officers they're hiring are the officers that lost positions during Ferguson and actions after that because of their response and what they did in the riot gear. Those are the officers they're hiring. And if you don't know, if the viewers at home don't know, we just had a massive turnout for Von Der Myers every year where we turn out in the place where he was killed. And we
tell the audience who that was.
Bondurant Myers was somebody in the local community, somebody whose family was active during Ferguson, and just another person that we saw. It could be any one of us because he was killed then, and his mom and dad were out with us, the whole family out then. But the officer that killed him is one of the people who was hired for 0311, whatever, tactical solutions that Brian. So that just shows the kind of officers and people that they're hiring to train these officers. The worst, who are losing their jobs for that exact thing, and the ones that are training the entire St. Louis area.
Right. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
See you around.
Yeah. So they're going strong.
United will never be divided. The people 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 united will never be divided.
The people united. You can't stop the revolution.
You can't stop the revolution.
You won't stop the revolution.
You won't stop the revolution.
You can't stop
And
the revolution.
from time to time, I'm able to look through comments to see what's going on. And every time you cover a protest like this, the trolls come out, a lot of the racists, all that. I say, welcome. We love you. Thank you for watching. And usually when you're getting the trolls and the racists and the white privileged folks in chats, that means you're doing something right. That means you're penetrating. So I don't really pay much attention to them. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not really entitled to your own set of facts. There is data. There's records of the amount of African Americans being killed by St. Louis police, by Baltimore police, by Ferguson police, by Cleveland police, by Detroit police. I mean, I could go on and on. So thank you for watching and trolling. We love you. So now they're reading off the list of African Americans that have been killed by police.
Mike Brown didn't get it. Shut it down. Mike Brown didn't get it. Shut it down. Mike Brown didn't get it. Shut it down. Jimmy Powell 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 didn't get it. Shut it down. Trayvon didn't get it. Shut it down. Ayanna Jones didn't get it. Shut it down. Kiwi didn't get it. Shut it down. Philando didn't get it. Shut it down. Anthony didn't get it. Shut it down. Anthony didn't get it. Shut it down. Isaiah didn't get it. Shut it down. Isaiah didn't get it. Shut it down. If you don't get it, shut it down. If you don't get it, shut it down. If she don't get it, shut it down. If she don't get it, shut it down. If he don't get it, shut it down. If he don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. They say move back. We say fight back. Move back. Fight back. Move back. Fight back.
So what's interesting here is as they're walking, I don't know, we probably walk like a mile by now. You see people in homes, in businesses, on the side of the road. Some of them aren't chanting pleasantries, but there's actually quite a bit of support too. I've seen a few people on porches with their arm up like that, their hand up like this for solidarity. You see some of them know some of the protesters, so they're talking. So even people that aren't in this actual protest seem to be pretty supportive. And I'll also say that there's still independent media out here. While Ty and I were gone, you saw Revolutionary Z. That's RebZ.tv, I believe, RebZ.tv. He did a good job. He was on we actually had him live for us so that we didn't miss anything while we were gone. So he was simulcasting on our page. You've seen him. You've seen STL News and some other just live streamers coming out even after getting arrested, which is a whole other case. I think you'll be hearing news about our arrests and some steps we might want to take in the coming days. So stay tuned for that. It's a little drizzle here. It's a little cold, but it's all good. By the way, just a little note. I'm out of underwear, so either these protests are going to have to keep going, or somebody's going to have to bring me some underwear because I don't have time to do my laundry. So, if you're watching, help a brother out. Ty says today, hey, it's just underwear. Who needs it? So, there you go.
We outside. We outside. We outside. We outside. What do we want? Justice. When do we want? Now. Say, what do we want? Justice.
What's also really amazing about this to me is that there's been zero national media. I think the St. Louis Dispatch has been here. Somebody from them got arrested. I don't believe CNN's been here. I don't think the New York Times has been here. I don't even know if the Associated Press has been here. If they have, it's been, people to take pictures, but no one to actually do any reporting, which is pretty crazy to me because Ferguson, elsewhere, was not going on for a month consecutively, those protests. Maybe they were, but not in the high-profile consecutive fashion that the St. Louis protests have been going on. Yet, I don't see Don Lemon here. I don't see Chris Hayes here. I'm not trying to be personal, but... What's that?
We don't want Don Lemon here.
Oh, Ty don't like Don Lemon. I don't like him either. I don't like guys who say...
I don't like the way he was here. He treated black people the last time he was in Ferguson.
Yeah. What's his thing? What's he say about black people? Pick up your pants, he has said in the past. He's got a little Bill Cosby mentality without the rape and all that. I don't know about that. So.
Y'all gonna stop killing us. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. Tell them your demand. Y'all gonna stop killing us. Tell them your demand. Y'all gonna stop killing us. Tell them your demand. Y'all gonna stop killing us. Tell them your demand. Y'all gonna stop killing us.
Can I talk to you for a second? No problem. So right now they're basically chanting what I've heard over and over again. You're all going to stop killing us. You're all going to stop killing us. And they've said it really eloquently, I think. I've interviewed Reverend Darrell Gray. I interviewed a few days ago. He's a pastor here, very well known in the community. He got pretty roughed up by police, sprayed, and arrested. What's that?
He's been threatened?
Yeah. And he's being threatened. His wife was threatened. And what's interesting is they say it very eloquently. Stop killing black people. Yeah, so here you have a little standoff between police and the car. Not police, just a vehicle and protesters. The protesters are trying to disturb. And you have cars kind of trying to go around the protesters, so obviously there's disruption there. Here they go this way. So the protesters are crossing the street here. Ooh, I do like Popeyes. We got Popeyes chicken.
Look at that St. Louis Q, that's what you smell.
What's that?
That St. Louis Q is what you smell.
You got African hair braiding over here. Popeyes. I do like Popeyes. So you kind of at parts of the protest, some protesters go one way, the other ones go another way, and you'll hear leaders say tighten up, things like that to try to make sure there's a large enough group together instead of splintering off into other directions. Rain's starting to come down a little more, but that's okay. You got signs police are agitated, and looks like they're stopping for a second.
Everybody can just gather in a circle.
They're gathering here in a bit of a circle here on the corner. Would have been wise to wear a jacket, but you know, I haven't been known for wisdom.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who are new, this may be your first time coming out. You may have been out to the Anthony Smith non-indictment, but you guys may not have been at this specific spot. This is where Jason Stockley murdered Anthony Smith after he got chased all the way down the street from Riverview where we was. Jason Stockley shot at Anthony Lamar Smith 7 times coming off of Riverview before he made it all the way up here and executed him 20 seconds before he said, "I'm going to kill this MFer. Don't you know that?" So we're out here to make a difference, right? Right. We're making a difference. We're making a change. We're making a difference. We're making a change. We're making a difference. We're making a change. So I want everybody to remember that when we're out here, that we are fighting for Anthony. We're fighting for Isaiah Hammond, Isaiah Perkins, and so many more people. That each time you guys come out here, it's not for nothing. Every time we come out here and we're voicing our First Amendment right that the police hate so much, we're making a difference just by that. Us blocking traffic for 5 minutes, 30 seconds, we're making a difference. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to have 3 minutes of silence for the 6 minutes that Anthony Lamar Smith's mother waited still for a non-indictment of Jason Stockley. You want to say something before we start the counting?
In this spot, let's just bring it home. In this spot, a life was taken. In this spot, we're fighting for someone who the day before had life, who the moment before this was just the neighborhood. Before we walked down this street, I don't know if anybody was paying attention to the fact that that's all Anthony Lamar would have been doing was just coming down the street. We had the opportunity to just come down the street. Jason Stockley felt like Anthony's life wasn't valuable enough to come down the street, to come down and move on with his life the next day. We have that opportunity, but we have to utilize that opportunity. We have to take it as a blessing and say we must hold the police accountable. We must not let them snatch another life from us, because a life was taken where we stand. I don't know if we're paying enough attention to that. A life was taken by somebody that said, "I'm going to serve you and I'm going to protect you." Somebody that said, "I'm going to pay my bills because I serve you and I protect you." He took his life. He said he was going to take it, and he took it, as Cheyenne said. So while we're taking this 3 minutes, let's remember that somebody else's life around St. Louis may go tonight, or it may not, because we stood up. So let's take 3 minutes. Each and every one of you is important in this movement. Let's take 3 minutes. Starting now. daughter grow up to be? Where will I be in 5 years? What movie will I go see next week? Who will I actually marry? How many more kids will I have? Does my mother need anything? Man, I love my friends. Thoughts of a regular, everyday person named Anthony Lamar Smith. I wonder what his thoughts would have been had he continued to live. No thanks to Jason Stockley.
I just want to give y'all some encouragement real quick.
I know we all cold because I'm freezing cold, okay? It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Okay.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
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 All right, now.
I want everybody to give yourself a round of applause for still being out here consistently. I want y'all to remember, like Cheyenne said, that when we come out here, I know a lot of people, we got a lot of trolls on Facebook. We got a lot of people that want to be us but don't want to be us. We got a lot of people that's going to try to bash us for what it is that we out here doing. And it's going to get overwhelming because we only human. We only, you know what I'm saying, we got emotions at the end of the day. So when you out here, think about the fact that they are able to stand behind those keyboards and talk about saving lives, but are not willing to put their feet on the ground like you are. Y'all the heroes. We the heroes. We are the people. We got to be the voice for those people who are too scared to stand up, those people who are dead and can't stand up because their voice has been taken away. What we are doing is called the real work. We are doing what politicians are supposed to be doing. We are doing what the people are supposed to be doing. We are taking control of our lives. Every law, every statute, everything that they put out includes us. So you have a voice. Like, this is your voice. Use your voice. If it means that we got to march every single day for the whole 300 plus days, that's what we got to do to let them hear us. But don't never get too tired because they not getting tired of putting us in this situation to where we got to march. So at the end of the day, it is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
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 All of those chains is those trolls behind those keyboards, all these politicians that's saying that what we doing is wrong, all of those people who ain't willing to do what we do, calling us criminals, criminalizing us. We are the people. We have spoken. We ain't coming to no table for 300 plus days. They about to know what it feel like.
Tell them your demand.
Y'all gonna stop killing us.
Tell them your demand.
Y'all gonna stop killing us.
Tell them your demand.
Y'all gonna stop killing us.
Y'all gonna stop killing us.
Y'all gonna stop killing us.
And that's the only message we want to send.
That's right. Let's go.
I'm trying to warm up. Y'all keep moving.
So obviously a pretty pretty powerful and emotional moment here, a couple of moments. I don't think you heard it, but as they were in their moment of silence, a car had the words of Martin Luther King blaring out, which was really just very powerful during a moment of silence to then hear Martin Luther King, almost like he was talking to the protesters and here with them in solidarity. So it was very, very beautiful. What do you think, Ty?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think what she said at the end sums it up. Like I think she summed it up at the end when she said our only demand is to stop killing us. And she really humanized it and talked about how we are humans. We do feel emotions, and you may get tired, you may get drained, you may get worn out, but they're not worn out. They're not sick and tired of killing us. So we need to stand fast. We need to do what we have to do. We need to just pick our bootstraps up and suck it up and keep going, because we have to have the same stamina that they have. Even though we may not have the resources, we have each other. And as long as we continue to have each other, then we'll continue to move forward. And eventually we will win. Eventually they'll stop killing us. But until they stop, we're going to continue to keep going. And I think that's a great, that's kind of a great motivational speech, because you need that. These people are going to jail almost once a week. And it's difficult to see the trees from the forest. It's difficult to have to feel like, which way are we going? Okay. It's difficult to not quit. It's difficult to not quit. It's difficult to continue when it seems like there's no change that's coming. You can't really see through the fog. And it's always good to allow to have someone tell you are human and you will feel this way, and it's okay to feel this way, but we got to push on. We got to push on. You guys are doing great, but we got to keep it up. And I thought it was a great way to stop. And like you said, with that, hearing Martin Luther King blare out of that guy's speakers in his car, I thought was amazing. It really kind of helped send that message to keep going, to keep moving forward, because they need that. They're out here every day. I've never seen anything like this. Now it seems like they're walking back down the same street we just came from, back to the starting point. We just came from the spot where Lamar was killed, and we had like a 3-minute moment of silence for him, and just to make sure, for me, I think the intention is to make sure that what I read from what they're doing is just to make sure that these killings stay in our head, that we don't get complacent, that we don't get used to this, that this doesn't become a norm for us, that we don't sit here and allow killings from the police to become normal, where we just lay down and continue to move forward without speaking up, because that's just what police do. So I think that's an amazing approach, an amazing way to look at it, and an amazing way to keep moving forward, Yeah.
Sorry if you're nauseous. I'm not the best on the camera. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, they're going back the same way they came in. So far, definitely way less tense and violent as Ty and I experienced. I think it's exactly a week today. Yeah, exactly a week today. My back still feels it, let me tell you. Sleeping on that concrete jail, not fun, but I had it a lot easier than most people have had it in that jail, most likely. So you see the protesters up there, still marching, presumably headed back to where they started. Seems like some of the cars behind them are basically trailing them in solidarity, so that's good.
Make sure that they don't get hit, because a few cars have tried to hit them before. You guys can look and see videos where even police have bagged up in the midst of a crowd and tried to hit the protesters.
And we haven't seen, so far, I don't want to jinx it, but we haven't seen any police.
Yeah, I saw one I saw one when we first started, kind of sitting in the corner in a car, 2 of them. But yeah, I thought they were going to call a bag up, but they didn't.
And I got to be honest, as much as the St. Louis Police Department, you got to criticize them, and I will be exposing. But on nights like this, where so far it's been fine, this is what America's supposed to be. You're supposed to allow people to exercise their First Amendment right. Sometimes they exercise it in a way that's a little disruptive. Sometimes they exercise it in a way that could disrupt the business or the flow of traffic. But that's life. And frankly, a lot of conservative protesters have done the same thing. A lot of protesters that probably are on the other side of the political and social aisle have done the same thing. So at the end of the day, this is what they're supposed to be able to do. They are unarmed from what I could see and peaceful. They're disruptive, but they're not violent. And at least for tonight, it looks like they're being able to peacefully protest. That is the exception here in the St. Louis area. Ty and I, we were actually in different cells for most of the evening last week. But between the both of us, we got horror stories we could share, for weeks on end of what we heard. And now comes down to those personal stories. If you follow us here on the Facebook page, on the YouTube channel, we're going to be doing interviews every day we're here. Today we interviewed transgender men and women about the horrific treatment they experienced in the jail. I really, really encourage you to watch that and share that, because unfortunately, as they expressed to me, transgender individuals don't really have the equivalent of like an NAACP for African Americans. And some of them that I spoke with today said, LGBT groups, unfortunately, rightly so, focus on poor treatment, harassment, discrimination against gay people, and sometimes the transgender end of that gets the short end of the stick. So they need your support too. We're going to be interviewing people about brutalization they've experienced from the police, harassment, violence they've experienced. I also want to look into the fact, the bottom line is, if you are poor and you are arrested for bullshit, that means you're probably staying in jail for a good 2.5 years. Ty and I, before we went live, were hearing a story about someone that was arrested. I think his bail was what, 20 grand?
Yeah.
And his friend said, well,
he was arrested for hitting someone, by the way. It was a fight. He got arrested for hitting someone. His bail was $20,000, wasn't able to pay it, so then he had to go to the workhouse where you work and you get paid $2 a day. He has to pay off $20,000 with making $2 a day.
Which means he's going to be in jail for minimum.
And this is not an exaggeration, Tony. This is not hyperbole. This is for real. This is what goes on. We talked about this on Friday when we talked to the Reverend. He talked about the workhouses. And this actually happens. I know it seems absurd and unbelievable, like something like this could happen, but this is the reality for people in St. Louis, for poor people in St. Louis.
Shit went out.
Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street! They think it's a joke! 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 Our streets! 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 Our streets!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them more demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them more demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing us!
Tell them your demand!
Y'all gonna stop killing
They
us!
think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
They think it's a game!
They think it's a joke!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
and I want to remind you guys, I've said it over and over, but I think it really bears repeating, because you would think in a society with laws, in a society where You need to have motive in a lot of cases to prove murder. The officer who was found not guilty was on tape. He's on tape while chasing this black man, Anthony Lamar Smith, saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker. Don't you know?" I don't know how much clearer. I don't care if you're pro-police, anti-protesters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Black Lives Matter or not. We all need to surround ourselves around a certain set of facts. And most objective people, if you heard on audio an officer screaming, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker," then he kills him, that officer should be convicted. That officer should be in jail, just like I would be if it was me. Certainly how Ty would be if it was him. But in St. Louis and in other cities, I can't really think of any police officers off the top of my head that have really been convicted for murder, especially with that kind of proof. Think about how easy it is for a black person to get convicted of murder with way less than that. So that's why they're out here. And it's not just about Anthony Lamar Smith. He's just his death and this acquittal is kind of just like that light that's really lit an already growing fire here in St. Louis. And by the way, I mean, Ty and I were just in East Chicago, Indiana, lead crisis, not being treated as a lead crisis, not being covered at all. We were back in Flint, where you have the Republican governor of Michigan just revealed that he lied about when he first knew about a deadly Legionella outbreak, which is a bacterial outbreak that killed 12. Poverty is the exact same pattern in all of these places. The violence against African Americans here, violence against transgender people, violence against poor people. Because these people, they don't have high-priced attorneys. They don't have lobbyists. They don't have PR people. They certainly don't have, media. I don't want to say advocating, because I'm not here to advocate for them. I'm just here to show you what's really happening, right? If I saw a protester doing something illegal, I would report it. I really would, because I'm not here to lift them or knock them down. I tell you what I think. I think they're right. But that doesn't affect how I cover it. Because at the end of the day, opinions need to be based on facts. And the facts are African Americans are disproportionately getting slaughtered. They're getting slaughtered because they're black. And even in the treatment even in the way they treated Ty versus I in getting arrested, it wasn't pleasant getting arrested, but they didn't really cuff me that hard. They didn't.
You had plastic cuffs. I had real cuffs.
Oh yeah, Ty had real cuffs. I had plastic cuffs. So why is that, right? Frankly, the officer talking to me, pretty pleasant. He was pretty pleasant. They were not so pleasant to Ty. So, I mean, we all know, other than the fact that I'm better looking, what's the difference between Ty and I? You could answer that. So, that's why it's really encouraging to see a lot of white people out here, because I got to tell you, and leaders of Black Lives Matter that I've interviewed in New York, in D.C., here, everywhere, they'll tell you, white people need to step up. White people need to step up. Maybe you can't come down here, but I left in the chat somewhere the mayor of St. Louis's number. You know, I can only give you the information. I can't tell you what to do with it. But public officials and the police department, they're only gonna stop the madness. They're only gonna stop the chaos if they feel that their jobs are on the line, or their freedom is on the line, or their payday is on the line.
I think that this is a good way for white people to combat white privilege, to use their white privilege to go against it, to be out here, to come here, to fall in line and to be behind, to be an ally to Black Lives Matter and the struggle that's going on here. You talk about white privilege and what it is. Now, white privilege doesn't mean you're racist. It just means it's something that you walk in because of systematic racism that's in this country. That's an ideology that was made up, but that we go by. So don't take offense and think that it means that you're racist. It doesn't mean it. It just means it's a lot of things afforded to you that wouldn't be given to a lot of other people, or you'd be considered for things just because of the color of your skin. And you can use that to combat white privilege. And a good way to use that is to be down here in solidarity as an ally, standing behind these people and what they're going through in the city.
And you know, like I was saying, Ty and I have been really, we just don't get it. We're staying downtown. It's like St. Louis is a ghost town. It is a ghost town. Somebody said to me before, it's the smallest big city in America, because you go downtown. There's bars, there's restaurants, there's hotels, there's the Blues Museum, and it's all empty. It's all empty. People don't have money. People don't have money. People don't have opportunity. The money flows into developers. We're seeing this in New York. We're seeing this everywhere. Detroit, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Portland, California. The politicians get bought off by the developers. They're trying to force out poor people, whether it's poor blacks, poor whites, force out poor people so that developers could come in, build some nice yuppie apartment complexes, put in a Whole Foods, and drive out poor people. Well, where do the poor people go? At a certain point, there's nowhere else for them to go. So this is kind of, St. Louis is kind of a mixed bag of racism, corruption, oligarchy, fascism, but it all stems from that poverty. And it's not like poverty like the city fell on hard times. It's redistribution of wealth. It's redistribution of wealth. It is a rigged system. So you get tax cuts for the wealthy people here, tax cuts for business, tax cuts for pharmaceutical companies, bankers, all that. And cities like this are the victim. And people that were already hanging by a thread economically, more jobs are lost, more lives are lost. So they're not just here shouting from the rooftops about police brutality. They want opportunity. Reverend Darrell Gray said it best to me. This is also a war on poverty, because poverty is the root cause here. And let me tell you, police, they don't treat middle class to upper class white folk like this, or even wealthier black people, because there are wealthy black people in a lot of neighborhoods that don't get treated this way. So here they are again chanting. They think it's a joke. And you know, I do see some trolls saying, "Oh, you're breaking the law, this and that." Well, if you want to go by the law argument, I think you should listen to that audio tape of that police officer saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker," and then going to kill him. That he broke the law. And because we have different laws in this country, we have laws for police and laws for everybody else. We got laws for bankers and laws for everybody else. This officer broke the law. All you got to do is listen to the tape. If you're an intellectually honest person, if you have some integrity, you would say that officer should have been convicted. And if you actually think, if that was reversed and that was a black officer, I don't know if you would have had the same result. So that's why they're out here, if you want to go by the law argument. And you know what? Martin Luther King broke the law quite a few times. You know?
Just because it's the law don't mean it's right. Real talk. Yeah, just because it's the law. It used to be the law where black people couldn't go inside a white restaurant and eat. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean it's right because it's the law. They use legislation to benefit their agendas.
Used to be the law that white people and black people couldn't get married. So, you know, if you want to use the law argument, well, sometimes when politicians are bought off and they are the lawmakers, if you know laws support oppression, sometimes you're going to have to break them. And now they're saying, are you tired? They're saying no. You see a sign here, police agitated, shoot us up, then go home. Chanting, we young, we strong, we're marching all night long.
We young, we strong, we marching all night long. We young.
we strong, we marching all night long. We young, we strong, we marching all night long. We young, we strong, we marching all night long.
We young, we strong, we marching all night long.
Police protect buildings, not civilians. Police protect buildings, not civilians. Police protect buildings,
Not civilians,
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 Police protect buildings,
not civilians.
Right, not around here.
They don't protect anything around here. There's no police.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty down area. Like there is no police to protect anything here.
This is the poor black side of St. Louis. You march this many people through the Central West End or the Del Mar Loop, you'll have 100 cops in front of you and riot gear. Up here, they don't care.
AKA, there's poor black people, so who gives a fuck? We won't protect them.
Oh yeah. People could smash windows around here, and the cops wouldn't care. You don't see. There's none.
Are you seeing, do you feel that the police department here, obviously they don't care, but do you feel like they're starting to see they have to change some of their ways or not at all?
No, I don't. In some parts of St. Louis they have, but by and large I don't think so. I think up here it's just that they don't care. This is the black side of town and there's nothing worth protecting as far as they're concerned.
Divided we fall.
Thank you.
Divided we fall. Divided we fall.
You can't stop the revolution.
You can't stop the revolution.
You won't stop this revolution.
You won't stop the revolution.
You can't stop the revolution.
You can't stop the revolution.
And you know what?
Won't stop the revolution.
Let's keep it real here, folks.
Divided we fall.
Friday is a month since they started protesting.
Divided we fall.
Friday is a month.
Divided we
They're going to continue protesting.
Justice.
It's definitely going to get a little cold. It's going to get colder.
Justice.
You're going to have more. Eventually, we're in the Midwest. You could get snow at the end of October, early November. But I don't think they're stopping here. I don't think they're stopping. And from the people I've spoke to, they're willing to put their jobs on the line. They're willing to put their body on the line. Some of them are willing to put their lives on the line. Because if you don't, this is going to continue. And I also think it's very important. The media is a part of this. So if you can't make it down here, ask those journalists why it is they don't have enough resources. CNN, the New York Times, the Associated Press, the Washington Post, BuzzFeed. I mean, I could go on forever. They got way more resources than Ty and I. You've seen Ty and I interviews. We got a lot less resources than them. Why is it that they can't walk and chew gum at the same time? You got plenty of people that can cover Russian scandals. They got plenty of people that can cover Trump's tweets. I think they can get some bodies here to show what's going on. Because for me, it's not about views. I would be very happy if there's more media here. Because you know what? Police can't operate in impunity. Police can't do whatever the hell they want when there's more microphones, when there's more cameras. And if they do, then that actually drives more change. That's what the role of the media is. The role of the media is to expose illegal behavior, to expose corruption, to expose injustice, not sit in your cubicle in New York and regurgitate whatever the police are telling you. So I really hope, I really implore my colleagues, even in the corporate side, to get out here. Ty and I haven't taken a day off in God knows how long. We're driving back and forth, 8 hours a pop, so that we could show you this. And it's not because we're so special. This is our job because it's important. And you know what? It's not to say that whatever Trump is doing is not important. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people are forgetting this. This shit was going on before Trump. This stuff was going on under Obama. So this is not a Trump thing. This has been going on for a long time. Maybe things have gotten a little worse under Trump, but there are things going on in America that have nothing to do with Donald Trump, that have nothing to do Democrat versus Republican, who's up, who's down, you know, the horse race. People are dying. It was so powerful. Cori Bush said, the congressional candidate, after that moment of silence, she said, another person is probably going to lose their life tonight. That's powerful.
And then she said, because we're here, another person may live tonight.
Right. So there you go. And you hear cars honking to show solidarity.
Fight back! 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 Fight back!
I'm glad you guys are still here.
Fight back!
I was in jail with you.
I remember.
I appreciate it.
How you doing? Good to see you. So, I think they're wrapping up in a few minutes, but they're continuing to scream, "Fight back! Fight back!" And honestly, I don't see any drop off. Seems that the same numbers that started the protest are going to end it. A lot of times when you see protests, what's that? What about the police?
They just hit the corner right there.
Oh, okay. So there's some police up there, so maybe I jinxed us earlier by saying this looked like...
That's when they see the police, they say, "We ready."
Oh, okay. So they're chanting, "We ready," because apparently there are police in front of us. They're definitely less than a week ago when we were here, so hopefully it's just a few.
Just one, look.
Oh, okay, just one. Just one. You would think one cop can't take all these people, so there you go. And by the way, this is secondhand accounts, but I have heard from leaders of this movement here that there's a lot of black police officers that support what they're doing. There's a lot of black police supporters. Whatever you want to claim is the reason, because they're black, because they sympathize, because they've dealt in their lives. But
Who do you serve?
Who do you protect?
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 Who do you protect?
Hey, he backing up, y'all. Hey, he backing up, y'all. Hey, he backing up, y'all. Where you going? Hey, where you going?
Who do you protect?
Who do you serve?
Who do you protect?
Everybody. Who do you serve?
Who do you protect?
so you see the police car backing up from the protesters.
Who do you protect?
They're screaming, "Who do you serve? Who do you protect?"
Who do you protect? Who do you protect?
And
Who do you protect?
definitely a tense moment.
Who do you protect? 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 They think it's a joke. 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 Who do you protect? Who do you protect? Who do you protect? Who do you protect? We ready for y'all.
It's quite interesting. I have not seen anything like this before. So this police truck is actually almost all the way back to another street, and somebody from their house just tossed something, and now they're saying slow down up front.
civilians.
They think it's a joke. They think it's a joke. They think it's a joke. They think it's a joke.
Off the block, you know, let them know who runs it. Whose street?
Our street.
Whose street?
Our street.
So they successfully backed a police truck off the street. There was quite the scene. The cop just kept reversing. So, you know, definitely a fairly bold move. I don't know if I would do it myself, but hey, gotta do what you gotta do. So now they're walking back towards the beginning of the protest. I've never seen anything like that, have you?
Not at all. I thought that was amazing. Never seen anything like that before in my life.
Let me tell you something. You can say whatever you want. There are trolls, but a lot of people with hefty parts here. Definitely brave, I would say. Because you know what? Let me tell you something. I'm not going to lie to you and say I go into these situations without any concern. You'd have to be an idiot to have no concern at all. So it's definitely, whether you're an activist, a protester, a journalist, you have to go into things like this knowing, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of volatility. You could have a crazy cop that just is going to start shooting people, which happens here a lot. So people feeling so passionate and so bold to basically just back a police truck back, they got a lot of courage. So whether you like their tactics or not, so far they've been effective. And again, this Friday is exactly a month since this former officer, was acquitted. So this is going on a month. I do not see it stopping anytime soon. I also think that something that hasn't been discussed much is there's a lot that has been learned since the Ferguson protests, and they're taking those lessons and deploying them here. So there's a lot of strategy among protest leaders in how to organize protests better, how to, I guess, outmaneuver police officers, better strategies. I do know that the police were not happy that they were able to successfully block off that highway a week ago. So Ty and I will continue to cover it as long as we can. Obviously, we don't live in St. Louis, so we won't be here forever, but we'll definitely be here rest of this week, and depending on what happens, go from there. So any closing thoughts, my man, before we get to booze?
I think I'm very impressed by him. Like I was the last time when they successfully blocked the freeway, when I think it was the police chief said that will not happen again. I'm just very impressed. And to see someone back a police car down, I had never seen that. I've seen empty police cars get beat and broken and windows busted, but never a car. I mean, in L.A., if that was happened, I mean, unfortunately, they probably would have called back up and it would have been bad. Right. But just to have the heart to do that is amazing.
If you are not on our Expect Us Facebook page, we do have a fake one out there. So go to our Expect Us page on Facebook and like it. Make sure it says @Frontline A1, because we have a troll that just made a page. So @Frontline A1 on Facebook, you go like it. Expect Us. Tomorrow there's town hall that the mayor will be at. We want everybody to come out to that. That is at Harris-Stowe tomorrow. Right after the town hall is over, it will be followed by direct action. So if you want direct action, come to the town hall tomorrow and follow our flyer, because we have actions all week. Thanks everybody for coming out.
And you can see the rest of the videos we've done youtube.com/TYTpolitics.
Real quick.
Whoa.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
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 All right, y'all. We'll see you.
And stay tuned to this Facebook page and the YouTube page tomorrow, as Ty and I will be live to make a little public service announcement about this very channel, TYT Politics. I think you're going to like it, and I think you will like the direction we're going to be going in the next few months. So thank you for watching. Share this video. Peace.